Are you that golfer where no matter how hard you tried, you cannot get any rotation through the hitting area? Well, today I'm going to show you why that is. And believe it or not, it's not because of a lack of mobility or anything like that. It's because of what you are doing in your golf swing is shooting you in the foot, and therefore you cannot get open at impact. Fix the root cause and you'll start to rotate better through impact. So root cause number one is a lack of depth. Now, what is a lack of depth? The lack of depth is at the top of the backswing, we see the hands are more over the toe line. So if I was to draw a line straight down from the button of the grip, it would be more over the toes. If I was to get the hands deeper, you can see it's more over the heel. When you're in this position with a lack of depth, what we're going to see is the hands want to work more in front of you and over the top on the way down. So what your body does is it reacts to this situation. That reaction comes in the form of some sort of early extension or secondary tilt, and that gets you into this taller position right here. Your hips will come closer to the ball, handles raised, and as a result, that has shallowed the club out onto plane, but at the sacrifice of any rotation. Now, why does adding more depth help you rotate more freely through the ball? Well, what it does is when you get more depth at the top of the backswing, we then can just shift and turn, and you can see that shaft is coming down on plane in a nice position. As a result, we can then just rotate through the ball, presuming other good factors like club face and everything, and then from there we're going to see a way better impact position. Now, what is the biggest contributor to generating depth? Well, it's rotation. The arms work the golf club up and down, and they also have a little bit of forearm rotation in there, which can change the plane, but they mainly work the club up and down. The body is what works the club deeper, the body rotation. You can see if I just turn, I'm going to generate more depth. So if I don't have a lot of turn at the top of my swing, I'm not going to have much depth. As soon as I free up my hips and I turn more, I'm going to see more depth applied. So the easiest way to add rotation to your swing is to free up those hips. So let's run through a drill that's going to help you increase your hip turn. So for this drill, all you need is 2 alignment sticks. You're going to place one in your belt loops and one at a 45-degree angle between your feet. So the one in the belt loops is going to give you a direct visual as to how much your hips are turning. The one on the ground is going to be our guide. Can we get to 45 degrees of turn? If we can, awesome. That means we got enough hip turn, it means we got enough shoulder turn, and chances are we're going to have a good amount of depth at the top of the backswing. If we don't get to this alignment stick on the ground, chances are we haven't turned our body enough and we don't have enough depth at the top, which is going to inhibit our impact and our rotation through the ball. So really simple. All I want you to do is just make a normal swing and freeze at the top of your backswing. If you see this alignment stick isn't matching or at least past this on the ground, then we are going to know we don't have enough hip turn. In which case, we need to free this right hip up. Do some swings where you feel like that right hip turns back and behind you so that then you can get a little bit more hip turn and you can get this alignment stick matching the one on the ground. But this is going to be a really great visual for you to see if you're getting enough turn. You can see the more turn I get, the more, so if I start here, if I add turn in, you can see the more depth I'm going to start to generate, which means I can shallow the club out more and use my rotation through the hitting area to square the club up and deliver a far better impact condition. Now, the great thing is you can hit shots doing this drill. Push it through so that the majority is towards the target, and then from there, hit some shots and try and see in the corner of your eye, do you get this alignment stick to that 45-degree mark? If you do get the right amount of rotation in the hips, chances are you're going to have a good amount of chest rotation and therefore a good amount of depth at the top, which will then give you more rotation through the hitting area. As you can see there, quite clearly got to the 45-degree mark. So then from there, I know I have a good amount of depth at the top and I can then rotate through the ball freely without having to stall out. Root cause number 2 as to why you cannot rotate freely no matter how hard you try through impact is you have a steep shaft in the downswing. Now, what does this look like? Well, a steep shaft in the downswing and in transition is where the shaft, the head is working more over the hands. The shaft is pointing inside the golf ball. Now, from this position, we always have to shallow out the shaft in the downswing in order to hit a golf ball. So our body is going to react in this position. The reaction tends to come in some form of early extension and secondary tilt. So again, that's going to be our hips pushing towards the target, chest backing up. You can now see it's very, very difficult for me to rotate my hips because I'm working towards the ball and taller. Club drops under, and now it's just going to be a little bit of a handsy action through the ball, and it's going to be very hard to react to this position. Now, if you do want to rotate better through the hitting area, then we do need to get this shaft shallowing a lot more. When the shaft is shallow, Everything wants to work a little bit more on plane, and then from there we can turn and have that freedom of rotation through the hitting area. So how are we going to do this? What are some good drills to help us with this? Well, the first drill we can do is an alignment stick drill. So all you need is an alignment stick, and you're going to place it down the left side of the club. Now, why is this important? Well, it's going to give us a great visual as to where that club is pointing throughout the swing. So one of the biggest issues that I see a lot of golfers struggle with is they work the club very much in a flat position on the way back. So you can see the club head is a long way behind the hands. And then as they go to the top, they realign that club over the hands. So you can see it's over the hands in this position. And now the shaft is steep and we're having to make some sort of reaction. Now, why does it work in sort of two opposite patterns? Why does it go back shallow and come back steep? Well, it's just physics. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So now that we know we need to flip it. We need to go steeper on the way back and shallow on the way down. This drill is amazing for it because we can visually see what's going on. So let's work it back a little bit steeper. So what does that look like? The hands are working back in a straight line. Left arm parallel to the ground, the shaft is pointing inside the golf ball. As we then turn to the top and we start down, we want to get that shaft pointing outside the golf ball as fast as possible. Steep to shallow. Now, if I just continue through to the hitting area, you can see I can rotate freely and I don't have to make any sort of reactionary moves to where I early extend, which is ultimately going to inhibit my rotation. Now, the second drill we can do is, again, something you can do on the golf course, and that's simply just to use your left arm only. Now, why is this? Well, it's because we react a lot more to the weight of the club when we do this. If we find that we are that shallow to steep player, which is going to get our shaft very steep in the backswing, the club is going to feel extremely heavy on the way back. The club head is behind my hands, and just because I'm using my left hand only, I can really feel it pull on my left hand. So it's going to feel heavy, and then it's going to feel light in the downswing as it gets steep, as the club head gets over the hands. Well, what we want to do is flip that, as we've just said. We want a steep to shallow pattern. So that's going to look like the left hand, the club being a lot lighter in the backswing, so the club head's more above my hand. And as I go to the top, I'm going to let that club head fall behind me and turn through. Now, as you can see there, massive over-exaggeration in terms of it falling behind me, but that's what we need. So do that a couple times. Let's go light, heavy, steep, shallow. That then is going to put us in a position to where we're on a good plane on the way down. We can then pivot through the ball correctly, have a lot of freedom in our rotation, and that is going to fix you stalling out. Root cause number 3 that prevents you from rotating freely through impact is arguably the most common one that I see, and that is an open club face in the downswing. Now, why does this cause you to stall out and not rotate freely? Well, when we think about a good impact position, we think about the body turning. Now, the more the body turns, the more shaft lean we apply. However, shaft lean actually has an opening effect on the club face. The more shaft lean we have, the more likely we are to open the face. Now, if your club face is already open in the downswing and then you try and get into that good position, that just means then the face is going to be pointing way to the right. So what we actually need to do is square the club face up way earlier to then allow us to then deal off the club and rotate freely through impact. So how are we going to do that? Well, whenever it comes to club face, the first thing we need to do is check the grip. So if you look down at your grip and you can't see any knuckles, or you see this V on the left hand and the right hand pointing up to the left shoulder or outside the left ear, you know you're in a weak position. As well, if you see a lot of wear marks on your grip, maybe you're gripping it in the palm, again, this is a weak position in terms of a grip. This is going to cause your face to naturally want to orientate more open. So the first thing you've got to do is strengthen that grip up. Make sure you are gripping it in the base of the fingers, and then from there wrapping that hand over so you can see the V is pointing more up to the right collarbone. You can see 2 to 3 knuckles on the left hand, and then when you bring that right hand on, that V is matching it as well. That's just going to orientate your face in a much better position, and again, it can be the first part of fixing that open club face in the downswing. Now, if you fix that and you still see your club faces open, then it's more to do with wrists. We need to look at your wrist conditions. So as you come down, if you see your right palm under the club and the back of the left wrist pointing to the sky, we know these wrist conditions are going to promote more of an open face. So how do we fix this? We'll simply get into that position right there. And if I say, right, I want you to twist that club face down so the face is pointing more down to the ground, what do your wrists have to do? Well, now my left wrist is a little bit more bowed and my right palm is a bit more on top of the grip. Now for you, some people are more left-sided players, right-sided players. Doesn't matter which side you think of. We can either use the left wrist feeling like it points more down to the ground, so the logo on the club, or we can feel the right hand a little bit more on top of the face. Doesn't matter which swing thought you use, both achieve the same outcome, but that is going to help you square that face up more in the downswing, which as a result is then going to allow you to rotate freely through the shot and deliver some shaft lean. So now you know the 3 most common root causes as to why you stall out and you can't rotate freely through the hitting area. Now, if you have any questions about anything I've gone through in today's video, please ask away. Stay tuned for more videos because I'll be posting a lot more in the upcoming weeks, months, and years. And if you have enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe.